Hi, I'm ED-SKaR, and this video is late. I should have probably had this out more than a month ago, but I'm only just recording it, and you will be listening to it quite a bit later, because I've been having a look at the Army starter boxes for Konflikt'47, 2nd edition, and I'll look at each specific one as we go, because I want to compare them. Now, I've already had a little bit of a look at the American and the Axis boxes and compared those. But as I was looking at the others, the British, Japanese, Soviets, I've realised that there's kind of a bit of a formula going on. There's sort of a skeleton, a framework that each of the boxes mostly follow, but every single one also breaks the rule. It doesn't follow the strict formula that I've got. And so I'm going to have a talk through each of these and see if I can work out if my formula is correct or if there's maybe something I'm missing. But we certainly have the case that we have an officer in each of the boxes. We have 2 squads, sometimes 3. We have a plastic tank that has a resin turret, and then we have a walker. But I can also say that at the end of my formula there is something extra, just a little bonus thing in each box. Or in some of the boxes, maybe. And again, inconsistent, so we'll have to talk through that. And so I want to kick off by looking at the British box, because this fits my kind of skeleton formula that I've come up with the best. The British box is pretty much spot on for what I think the formula is. And so what we have, if I go through the images separately, we have our officer. Now, interestingly, this is an officer with a rift weapon, and that is something pretty cool to have. I suspect that I might actually not be using this guy as my officer. I'm probably going to use him as a support weapon in the squad that we'll get to in a moment when I run my British, but maybe I will run it this way. I don't know. I haven't built them yet. We shall see. I've always been a fan of the stoic, not in combat, kind of standing around ready, kind of surveying the battlefield kind of pose. I've got a few models that kind of fit that kind of style, and this is another one. I like it. It looks pretty cool. So our first squad for the British is the Galahad armour. So these have armour +1, which means that veteran, there'll be damage value 6. They unfortunately only have light machine guns, so they don't have a pen value for offensive work. I think they can take the Tesla rifle that the officers got, so again, that's why I'm thinking of swapping parts over or just dropping that model into the squad as a support weapon. We shall see. But this definitely fits my kind of skeleton idea of a squad of 5 as an infantry choice. We also have the Mark I automata. Get your head in frame. There we go. And these guys are also pretty interesting because they're machine guns. You can either have them as light machine guns, lots of shots, no pen, or you can pay quite a hefty points cost to give them all heavy machine guns. And that, as many points as it is a very tasty and quite powerful kind of infantry squad that you can have. But they've also got all of the automata stuff, which I haven't fully read through, so I need to double check on all of that. But some of it seems pretty handy. And again, this is a squad of 5. So we have our officer, 2 squads of 5. We're well on my idea for the structured kind of formula for what the army box should be. Next up, we have a big old walker, the Percival, apparently. I said this before, I have never, whenever I look at a picture of the walkers on War Games website, I'm just like, I don't like it. And then when I get it in hand and I start reposing it and putting it into a more interesting position than just standing straight forwards, I like them. And so I don't like this one yet because it's just in that kind of boring pose, just standing there kind of pose. When I get hold of it and I start kind of cutting at the legs and putting it in a slightly different position, I'm certainly going to like it more. But it has a massive great big Tesla cannon sticking out of its face, which is weird, but okay. And then we have the Humber armoured car, and this is where the British deviate from my kind of skeleton idea that I mentioned at the beginning, because all of the other boxes have a tank with a resin turret. this time we have an armoured car with a resin turret. Now I'm still pretty sure we're getting the full plastic armoured car with the plastic turret, and then a separate turret so you can swap it out. So I can use the Humber armoured car in bolt action, switch the turret over, you can use it in Konflikt'47. What I understand is that the kind of ability of this vehicle, it's kind of just got a pair of autocannons, or just one autocannon it looks like. No, that is a pair of autocannons. But it's less so much about the weaponry and more about the computational side of things. So just like the infantry are automata, the vehicle has a boost in that regards. I think it's to do with moving and shooting. And so like I said with my structure, officer, 2 squads of 5, walker and the plastic tank, although it's an armoured car in this case, and then a little thing extra, and that is, right here, the Mark II automata, which are slightly bigger and are carrying even bigger guns. These can be autocannons, which is mental amounts of firepower for a squad of them. Having a vehicle with an autocannon, that's great. Having a squad that can run autocannons, really nice. But also these guys can assist other automata units nearby, although I think it's within 6 inches, so that's that kind of the same thing I'm having trouble with medics, keeping squads close together so that they can actually use their abilities together. But regardless, it's one of those things where you're probably going to make use of it every now and again, not consistently all the time. But as the little bit extra in this box, to have 3 of the Mark II automata, that's a pretty nice extra. And so there we go, there's the British that I think fits my formula, like I've said, as close as possible. The only real kind of variation here is that you've got an armoured car instead of a tank. The next up is the one that I'm really looking forward to, and I should be picking up, well, yesterday, but it didn't arrive in time, so I'm picking it up tomorrow morning instead, is the Empire of Japan Army. And again, this one very closely fits my formula, although again there's one notable exception, so it's probably on par with the British, but I think this exception is bigger than the armoured car discrepancy with the British blocks. So let's have a look through it. So first up we have our officer. He's got his nice little flag on his back, and he's got the assault frame armour and a light machine gun, which seems odd to me. Now we know the British had the Tesla rifle, which is a nice addition, but giving an assault frame officer a light machine gun is a little bit more questionable. Now if he'd have had a Shiboru rifle, that would have been fantastic, would have loved that, but the light machine gun doesn't have a pen value like the Shiboru or the Tesla gun does, but it also removes his ability in close combat. I think he still gets the pen in close combat, he still has a close combat weapon, but he loses an attack, right? So he's less effective in close combat, and he's got more shots, but they're mundane shots. They don't have a pen value, they're not rift weapons. So I'm not 100% on this model as much as I'm not 100% on the British officer, and I may end up kind of kit bashing and converting, swapping those arms over, giving him something else instead. We shall see, but it's still a pretty cool model, and having this as a squad leader would be awesome. Having this as an army leader is still pretty cool. To go with the officer, and you can actually kind of swap him in and out, is we have a squad of the assault frame models. And I thought these were battle frame at first, because we have this guy here with this massive cannon gun thing. But they are assault frame, they've got assault rifles and the close combat weapon. So they're getting 3 attacks each. 3 attacks each in close combat with a pen value, and a squad of 5 is the minimum size, so you can bump that up to 10 if you have the more models for it. And I've already got the old officer, and if I stick the officer from this box in, I can make 9 straight away. And tempted to get more of these guys because, yeah, assault armored infantry, that's pretty nasty. Liking that. Although I haven't necessarily worked out what gun this is, because this guy will probably lose, just like the officer, will lose the attack from having this. Is it the Panzerschreck equivalent, or flamethrower, or anti-tank rifle? I don't know. It's a whatever it is. Now here we have something that's really cool. These guys are the Ghost Squad. And they do have the Shiboru rifle, and I've had great fun using the just mundane infantry with the Shiboru rifle. But these guys have armor, and they have rift ability that they can jump around the board, and they have the Shiboru rifle as well. So these guys, pretty darn good. People have been talking about the American Fireflies just appearing out of nowhere and like shooting up a tank in the rear armor. These guys can do the same. They're just not doing it on turn 1. They're kind of appearing on the battlefield somewhere and then jumping in turn 2 or 3, maybe. Yeah, they can definitely cause some damage. I'm not sure what these guys are like in close combat. They might not have much in the way of extra attacks and stuff. And then we have the Walker, and oh boy, this is my favourite model in the entire release of 2nd edition, and the little Sasori mech was my favourite of the 1st edition Konflikt'47 models, so I just love this style of model. I have a video painting the old one, and I'm going to have a video painting the new one of this, because that thing is just so cool. And it's got little snippy claws, still got 4 legs, just like the old one, and it's got this tail. That tail just looks so much cooler than the old. The old one was like a metal structure with a little turret on top, which was kind of cool, kind of fit the style. This thing with just the linkages, kind of this flexible tail. I talk about reposing the walkers mostly with the legs to give them an interesting position. I really want to see how much I can repose this tail, because I've got some ideas. I've got some ideas of what to do with that. But it does fit our walker position, so let's move on to the tank. So this is the plastic Chi-Ha kit with resin turret with the Shiboru cannon. And the Shiboru cannon seems pretty nice. I've been loving the Shiboru rifles. I haven't yet had a good chance to use the Shiboru cannon. The rules are a little bit difficult to use, I think is probably the correct way of phrasing that. Because it's got 2 shots, and when you use the ability, you have to hit with both of those shots for it to actually do anything. Otherwise, you've just wasted your rift die. And so there's a good chance, like even if you're standing still, there's a good chance you're not going to get it. So either charging forwards and point blanking it so that you get the bonus to hit, or some other possibility. Who knows? I don't. But it looks cool, and it's certainly very powerful, and I think I'll definitely be running this just as a standard vehicle in absolutely every list ever. And it gives me another Chi-Ha for bolt action, and I do need a second one of those. And so we come to the end of the Japanese box, and we notice there has been one omission. Because we have our officer, our 2 infantry squads, we have our plastic and resin tank, and we have our walker, and we don't have the extra kind of bonus thing. There's nothing in this box that I can point to and say, ah yes, this is the extra bit in this box. And that's a shame. I'm not sure what there is in the Japanese list that would actually count for this. A squad of Shiboru, the minimum size, whatever. The minimum size is 5 or 6, so that would be another 5 or 6 models in the squad. Or some other weapon options for the Scorpion, again, doesn't really make much sense. So I'm not sure what an extra thing for the Japanese might actually be. I think that we can put the Japanese tank turret on a mount, like an emplacement. So including that as an extra, just like a single resin block where it's got a base and like a structure that you can put the turret on, because you're getting 3 turrets with this. It's 2 in the plastic kit and then the resin one. So having like an emplacement that you could put one of the other turrets on would be nice, I guess. But again, that's kind of an odd thing. It's not necessarily something you'd use. Get back to me on that. Get back to me on what you think about that one. Right, let's move on to the next box, the Soviet box. And I think this one also fairly closely fits my formula, but there is still a bit of a deviation. And we'll kick off with the officer. We have an officer. This guy has this bullpup rifle that was that's a historical real rifle that is one of the contenders to the AK-47, or possibly a replacement for it that didn't actually get adopted. But he's got flag, he's got a little speaker, a kind of microphone and a speaker over his shoulder. So maybe he's some kind of political officer, not necessarily a commissar, but like a propaganda guy. Certainly very in keeping with the Soviet style, the kind of the memes of the Soviets anyway. But yeah, a pretty cool model. The only thing I kind of wish is that for first edition Konflikt'47, I went heavily onto the Daughters of the Motherland. So if only this was a Daughter of the Motherland, I'd be much happier about it. But it's fine. This dude will go in my army at some point. And I probably will just have him as an officer, because I don't think there's anything else that I can do with this model other than put him in as an officer. Next up is the infantry squad. The first infantry squad is a squad of 5, and these are the Moraz Ghoul. I actually really do like these guys. The icy blue of both the skin and of the crystals coming out of it. Again, Kirsten, who does all the painting for all the infantry, good job. These look amazing. They've got the same bullpup, not AK, the alternate rifle there, which really is, it just fits them so well. I like it. The scrim net over their face, are they all hiding their faces because they're cold, or is there something horrifying under there? That yes. Lovely good stuff here. And the guy in the middle's got what looks like an RPG 7, might be an RPG 3? 4, probably a 7. That's the classic one that everyone knows about in the modern era. I'm not sure when that was introduced historically, but it's Konflikt'47. You can have what you want. You can have stuff from the 60s if you want. That's fine. But these guys definitely fit the squad of 5. What doesn't fit the squad of 5, but is one of the infantry choices, is the Bears, the Ursus infantry. But these guys are bigger than the normal humans. And so you can argue if you really want, that even though this is not a squad of 5, it's a squad of 3, the bigger models, and so they are equivalent to a squad of 5. Maybe the points cost is the same, maybe the price that it actually would be to manufacture, and therefore the retail price is similar or the same as a squad of 5. But that is a deviation from my formula, that these are bigger models for a squad of 3 rather than the standard kind of human-sized models for a squad of 5. The walker here is a Molot, which is, again, that pose, that kind of rigid, stationary pose. I think once I get my hands on this and I start cutting the feet around and adjusting the pose, this thing is going to look weird. Am I going to have it jumping like a frog, or am I going to have it like sprinting along? I don't know. I'm going to have to see kind of how it's built, how it goes together, as to what kind of posability it has natively and what I can cut and make happen. But what I have noticed is that this walker, the Molot, is the only walker in the entire release that doesn't have a rift weapon. The Americans and Brits have the Tesla gun, Japanese have the compression gun, and both of the German mechs have the eyeball, the new version that used to be an eyeball Schwert something or other gun, but the Soviets, it's just an anti-tank gun. An anti-tank gun, and I think it's twin heavy machine guns on the bottom. Don't know if they're heavy machine guns or autocannons, but I mean, it's solid. It's a decent set of weapons. It's definitely going to be useful. And if I'm honest, an anti-tank gun instead of a rift weapon definitely has its place, because a lot of the rift weapons need to get quite a bit closer to do the damage against vehicles, especially the Japanese ones, where I think you just need to be within 6 inches. But this thing can do its work from halfway across the board, quite easily. Next up we have T-34 ZP, and I already have a ZP T-34, and so I'm not convinced what I'm going to do about this one. I have so many Soviet tanks that I don't even need the T-34. I may be selling this one off, but not just the plastic T-34, but maybe the turret as well, because I've already got T-34 ZP, the older one, and it's fine. This is a very different design, and it does have the styling of the kind of 1950s radar equipment that the Soviets were working on, kind of 50s and 60s. So really cool, and I think it does look better than the old one, but I'm just not sure about replacing the old one with this one. I think I'm just going to stick with the one I've got. Unless it turns out to be amazing and then I'll just run 2 of them. Who knows, I might try that. But here we go, plastic tank, the T-34 with a resin turret, fits my description, my skeleton. But there is one thing that I haven't mentioned up here, and that is the little bit extra. And the little bit extra is a second squad of 3 Ursus. This time they have the rocket mallet. I have no idea. I haven't read the rules for any of the Ursus because I kind of don't like them, sorry. But they are what they are. They do look cool if you like this kind of thing. It may be a case that I'm going to just paint them up and be like, okay, actually I do like them now, because that's the kind of thing I do. I like painting and I end up liking what I paint even if I didn't like it beforehand. But for the moment, I'm just happy to say that they are the extra bit for the Soviet box. And so, comparing my skeleton formula for the Soviet box, we have our officer, we have 1 squad of 5 and 1 squad of 3 larger models, so we do have a slight deviation there. We have the walker, we have the tank with the resin turret, and then we have the little bit extra in the form of the other Ursus. And because of that, I think that the Soviet box is probably one of the better ones. I think it's certainly better than the Japanese because we don't have that little bit extra. And in comparison to the Brits, well, we have a proper tank instead of an armoured car. Whether that's a good improvement or not, because the Humber is a good little armoured car, they're handy to have, and the T-34 is a good solid medium tank, so they're both good to have. So I can briefly look at the original release, and I have already looked at these, so I'm going to skip over these very quickly, just to see whether they fit my my formula, as it were. I'm not going to go through each individual unit, because I've done that, like I said, in previous videos. So for the Axis Starter Army, we have our officer in Stahltroopen armor, so actually a slightly bigger model than in the others. We have a squad of 3. Again, we are having slightly larger models, and 3 of them instead of 5. But the Stahltroopen aren't as big as the Ursus. They're quite a bit smaller, and it's just 1 plastic sprue, which I keep saying you could have fit 4 on that without really trying. But nope, we only get 3. The Nachtauben, squad of 5, just like everything else. These guys are pretty interesting, actually. I'm looking forward to getting these on the table, because I think they have, well, they have legs, but I think they have, metaphorically, they have legs in terms of what they can achieve. We have our walker. So we actually have 2 walkers, but if you follow my formula, pay attention, I'm counting the Vogelspinner as the walker in my my kind of framework, and then I'm counting the Panzer IV, because this is a Panzer IV under all of this, as the plastic tank, because there is a plastic tank underneath all that, with a resin turret. But then we have the little bit extra, the kind of the bonus feature of this box, and that would be the legs for the Panzer IV. Now, I personally really don't like this model. I don't like the way it looks, and so it actually is the one model that I've sold off and I don't have a copy of, so I don't have this model at all anymore. If you like the kind of thing, it is a cool model. I've heard a lot of people say that they love it. That's great, but for me, I don't. And I also don't necessarily think it's a great idea for the bonus thing in this box being an additional thing to what is already the biggest thing in the box. So for the Axis Starter Army, it's heavily weighted, kind of in terms of its value. It's heavily weighted towards that Panzer IV mech. And if you like it, that's great. You'll probably buy 2 boxes. If you don't like it, like me, you're probably going to buy the box and then sell off that model like I did, because it's just so much of the box. And so because of that, I think that the Axis Starter Army is probably the least valuable version of all of the armies. And then, of course, we have the Americans, as we have looked at before. Again, I've said we've looked at before, so we're going to skip through this relatively quickly. We have our officer, his Firefly guy with the Tesla Thompson, so he has a pen value. That's great. And not an upgraded weapon. That's a standard weapon for the Firefly officer. 6 Fireflies and then another 6 Fireflies, so that's great. So we're getting the 2 infantry squads and we're getting an extra model in each already, not even having to think about it. Then we have the plastic tank with the resin turret. Now this is a light tank, so it's probably on par with the Humber. Actually, it's probably better to consider it on par with the Chiha, because it's armor 8, same armor value. But we have the Tesla cannon on that thing, on the resin turret, so that fits our framework. And then we have the mech. Now, the linebacker is the biggest mech except for the Panzer IV. So it's the second biggest mech in the whole release. It's a wonderful kit, plastic kit on 3 sprues. I would like you to go back and watch my video on that, because I do go through kind of some of the features of how that kit goes together. And it's really well designed, is just what I'm kind of pointing to there. It's a really nice kit to build, but we still have that last thing, the bonus thing, the little bit extra in the set. And that's an entire another linebacker mech. Good grief, that's amazing. The American set, I think everyone is in agreement on this, is the best value in terms of what you get in the set. And if you look at my framework and compare it to the others, the bonus extra thing in some of them is a squad of 3 heavy infantry, which is nice, or legs for one of the tanks, which I don't like, but some people like. That's great. But here you're getting an entire medium mech, and a good one. That's a good kit and good in game. The Americans just get the best stuff. They really do. And so there you go. I have gone through like a total nerd all of the sets and compared them to what I consider my framework to be. What do you think at home? Am I on the right track? Have I kind of hit the nail on the head, or am I off a little bit? Because I think my little framework of the officer, 2 squads of 5, plastic tank with a resin turret, mech, and then a bonus, it sort of fits most of them, but every single one of them deviates from that in at least one way. But I'll also say that I have already done videos on 2 of them, the Americans and the Axis. I have already got the Japanese on its way. I've ordered that in, and if you think you can stop me from buying the British and the Soviet box as they become available to me, well, you're wrong, because I'm going to get all 5 of them, and of course I will be doing videos on them specifically. Do you want me to do in the far future, when I get all of these assembled, built and painted, a kind of comparison of each one? Because that's going to be a long time. It's going to take me ages to paint this many models, but it might just be a nice little look back to the current time when they're being released, as to what they look like when they're done. Well, I'll probably forget all about that, and whenever I'm done with these, I'll be doing something completely different, because that seems to be what I end up doing. But with all of that said, with all of that discussion having taken 40 minutes of recording time, yeah, I'm going to have to edit all this. Lovely, I'll get to that straight away. I'm ED-SKaR, always will be, and thank you very much for watching.